Alright, here is some very generic advice as to how to manage incident rounds. So the type of rounds that I'm talking about here is where you have a case, you have 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, sometimes even 3 hours to solve the case. And these are called instant case solving rounds because you get the case on the day of the round and then you solve them. I like them a lot. They probably don't require as much effort as preparing for around 48 hours, but they are quite challenging because of the time frame itself. So here's some generic advice. Firstly, specify different roles for different people. And the reason I say this is because you ought to use everyone's skills and you ought to be very efficient at it. Now, this can be in various ways, but it depends on the type of team that you have and the type of teammates and the type of skill sets they have. So, for example, I've seen a lot of teams specify a person for status quo analysis, problem analysis. What they do is just read the case, look for problems, look for the context, and within half an hour just go straight to the laptop, start preparing the context slides, start preparing the problem analysis, and that's it. They don't do anything else. The other team members look for a solution. Again, depends on whether or not this person is very comfortable doing this, whether or not this person is good at it. Sometimes it's important to put someone who is really looking at the appendix in depth as opposed to the case. So maybe they just glance through the case and they're looking through appendix in depth, and someone else who just glances through the appendix and looks at the case in depth, like quite literally the opposite roles, but to balance out. Maybe three teammates are assigned three different things. One teammate is just given the responsibility to dig through the case as deep as they can and probably read the case even twice throughout. Don't even touch the laptop because the other ones are doing that. So to make sure that the solution is throughout robust and the slides are good and so on and so forth, so that they can monitor the whole situation. Again, depends on the sort of teammates that you have. Have a strategy before you go into that round. Have a discussion maybe the night before, 2 nights before the round itself, and specify different roles, different teammates. So that's absolutely comprehensive on the day of the round itself. So your solution is robust and it does not have a lot of weaknesses. Secondly, always look for hints. These cases have like explicit and implicit hints as to what the solution is, what the core problem is, and so on and so forth. And those hints are quite important, and you need to look for those hints because they are not present throughout the pages. They are maybe present in the second paragraph, second line, maybe in the third paragraph, fourth line. But make sure that you look for the hints. Use a highlighter by all means. Use a pencil to mark them. Whatever works for you, but make sure that you always look for the hints because they go a long way in constructing your problem analysis or even a solution and so on. Thirdly, pay extra attention to the appendix. And the reason I say this is appendix of any case contains a lot of numbers. And those numbers really help with regards to whether or not you're looking at market share, whether or not you're looking at the finances of company, whether or not you're looking at a particular statistics that it's very relevant to the specificity of the case. And I think it's very important to pay extra attention to the appendix itself because then it contributes a lot to your feasibility analysis, also your solution itself. And that can be derived out of the appendix. And the judges, when they ask, how did you come to this number, your answer to this is how I did the analysis with regards to the numbers that are in the appendix. And that's that. Fourthly, derive solutions from the details of the case. And the reason I stress on this is like a lot of people try to be very creative and go out of the box and then out of the case. Oftentimes, it's probably a good idea to not be confined within the case itself. Maybe you have some particular idea with regards to the United States of America, and this case is based on the United States of America, and you want to use it. I would discourage using that in a lot of instances if it's not common knowledge to everyone. So what do I mean by this? Say if a case is based in India and the case explicitly does not say anywhere that India has a very patriotic population, but almost everyone knows that India has a very patriotic population, and you want to include that bit of analysis as a part of your solution, by all means do it. But if you have a very specific knowledge with regards to a very specific industrial regulation in a very remote part of China, then I don't think the judges know about this, or the judges will believe this when you say this. So perhaps not use this. But in all circumstances, it's very useful to use the details of the case. So, for example, this is the solution because in this part of the case, you will see that about the country that we're talking about, this was the characteristics that was described, and we're using this to construct the solution and basing the solution off of that context mentioned in the case. And that's quite useful. And hence I say derive solutions from the details of the case. That's always useful. It's very useful to not really wander all around the world, not really go that out of the box. In case of case solving, it's just important to understand what you're doing in case solving, right? You're a consultant that is appointed, and this is the amount of information that you have. You don't really need to be creative. You just need to solve the problem, and that's that. Creativity, to a large extent, is probably well reserved for branding solutions. So that's the best advice I can give with regards to deriving solutions from. Lastly, always keep track of time. It's the preparation time, presentation time. Don't overshoot. That has penalties. Especially with regards to instant case solving rounds, I see a lot of teams just overshooting their time because it's very difficult to solve a case within 2 hours, to be honest. But it's even more difficult when you don't have to track of time. Like say 1.5 hours in, you just have problem analysis in your slide, and then you have to scramble and then somehow put up a solution in your slide. Probably not the best thing to do, probably not the best idea. Make sure that you invite work to teammates. Make sure that if your teammate is taking too much time in reading the case, you tell them to hurry up and maybe wrap up their reading as fast as they can so that you submit it on time. And I think that overall is quite useful when it comes to case solving. So that is my advice when it comes to case solving. Overall, if you follow them, I guess it helps you construct a solution to a case.